Welcome everyone to the meeting of the Financial Resources Committee. It's good to see you all, and we are now live streaming. Any apologies?
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Hinchcliffe and also Councillor Jeffrey and Councillor Swift, for whom Councillor Morley and Scullion are substituting.
Great, and welcome, thank you. Any declarations of disclosable or pecuniary interests? No, good. Any exempt information? There's no exempt information, is there? So no exclusion of press and public. And the minutes of the last meeting held on November the 22nd, on November the 10th, 2022. We're all happy to approve the minutes, thank you. Right, and moving on to financial reporting, item 5. If we can just flick through our details. This is the regular finance monitoring report, giving us the position of revenue and capital budgets as we come towards the year end. And I'd like Angela to talk us through in more detail, if you may, and there may be then questions from the members. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you, Mayor. So yes, this is your regular financial performance report, and hopefully confirming that we are still on track in line with the the decisions that were made at the Combined Authority meeting at the beginning of February. So at that meeting, you approved a revised forecast outturn for the year and the budget for next year. This is the some more detailed financial reporting in year. So the paper that was approved in February showed a small surplus expected at the end of the year. It's now moved to a small deficit, but only we're talking a couple of 100,000, and it's very likely this will settle itself down as we work through final figures as we get towards the end of the year. There's usually a degree of optimism that spend will hit by the end of March that doesn't always quite come to fruition. So at this stage, I think we're reasonably confident that the position that we reported in February remains on track as we sit here in the middle of March. We will be closing down figures during April into May, and we'll be able to report back to you in early summer what the results are for the year. The expenditure on bus attendant services is one that we focused on that is currently in line with the approved budget, which is good. The risk remains, as discussed in detail at the budget meeting, of volatility and additional pressures into next year. But in this year, we are managing that within budget. We have also previously talked about a saving against the concession reimbursement, which we'll be setting aside to help support the additional costs next year of bus attendant services, and we are on track with that. And we are still working through the implications of the bus recovery grant, which has been a bit of a moving target. It's happening, it's not happening, it is happening. So at the moment, we believe we should be receiving Q4 money and figures and an amount for Q1 next year. That needs to be worked through to understand the implications for us, and we'll be bringing that back to a future meeting to see how that fits with our budget and then what decisions that members will need to make about how that money is applied. So the revenue position is reasonably stable in line with where it was last year, but notwithstanding potential future volatility in future years. The second part of the paper looks at the capital programme, where we are forecasting best part of £250 million spend, so it's a good figure. That is a very healthy capital spend. It's up a little, it's down about 10-15 million on last year, but next year's is due to increase to over 300 million, which is the result of lots of things coming through now, coming through pipelines and moving through to delivery. So I think some good progress being made there. There is some quite a lot of spend to come through in Q4, which is often the case. We find ourselves and our partners, it seems to be a bit of a rush to the end of March, and the accruals come in, and we expect quite a high spend figure come through in the final quarter. So there's then some narrative in the paper on the different the different capital programmes arranged by sort of funding, showing how they're making progress. And at the end of the paper, paragraph 222, some information about the gateway reviews, which is government's review of how well we are spending our transport fund money, but also now the devolution gain share. So there is work underway to understand what is required from us. It's in line with, it's government of running this. We have to provide information on our progress, on how we are we achieving what we set out to do with the funding, and work is underway to understand exactly how the best way we want to, how we do that, how we put together our schemes, and demonstrate back to government that we are making decisions in line with our assurance framework, in line with our priorities, and achieving better outcomes for the people of West Yorkshire. I will pause at that and happy to take questions and comments on any or all of that, and there may be other colleagues in the room can support on that also.
Thank you, Angela. And just a couple of things. On buses in particular, I've written to government asking for sustained funding in the way that London has that yearly funding pot, rather than staggering from bus recovery grant 3-month extension to 3-month extension, because it doesn't help us with stability and planning going forward. Just to mention and pick up on what you said about most of the spend comes in the fourth quarter. Is that what you were saying? Fourth quarter. Could you just reassure us about the Brownfield Housing Fund? Because there's quite a gap between the 89 million that we've been awarded and the expenditure approval of 20 million.
Thank you. I think Brownfield housing is one of the most challenging areas we've got. Some of the timescales of spending is in line with the timescales government set for us, and I think we've acknowledged on some of those, in order to get the best outcomes for the project, some of the spend might roll across into the following year. We are doing our best to achieve it, but lots of the projects coming forward are with private sector, which is good, but it takes a lot more work to actually go through the detail, get all the agreements in place than it does when we work with local authority partners. So there are lots of difficulties in the way, but I think the team are very focused on trying to make sure we get the Brownfield housing money spent. If there's a little slip into next year for some of it, which is possible, we will manage that through shuffling the money, the funding in the best ways we can, using our freedoms and flexibilities to ensure we don't lose funding, but also that we can deliver the programmes that everybody wants to deliver. And some of them are quite hard. They are, and I think you know better than I do how difficult the Brownfield housing project have been from a standing start to get the right schemes developed up and actually to happen. So we'll report back in more detail on that next time in terms of what we achieve.
Thank you. And if I could just ask about the Gateway review, that just for my understanding, that the 224, that the reviews will commence with final reports due to be submitted to government by October 2024. Are you liaising with civil servants during that process? I wonder if somebody could just let me know if that's the process, so that when we do submit, we know that we're submitting what government need from us to have reassurance.
Yeah, thank you. Alan's leading that process for us.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So the answer is yes. So we're liaising with the government on it. Government have also appointed a consultancy called SQW, who act as a panel to look at our evaluation as well, kind of in between. So we have to commission the evaluation ourselves. SQW will assess it on behalf of government as well. So we're working with them. The other point I'd add is that there are two, as you said, there are two processes here. One for the existing transport fund, the older transport fund, and the second for gain share. We are trying as far as possible to bring those two together because there is a risk of inefficiency in us running two separate processes. So we're talking to government about how they can flex their arrangements to enable us to bring those processes together.
Thank you. And certainly we want to make the case that we are delivering, can deliver, and can be trusted to deliver going forward. And we are ready to be accountable to government as well. Thank you. Mark and then Jane.
Thank you, Matt. And maybe just a follow-up question on the evaluation, because whilst this is the first time we will be evaluated on gain share, we've obviously had evaluations on growth deals previously. So I guess to what extent are we taking the learnings of growth deal into account for this and making sure that we can sort of play that public sector money with private sector co-investment card as well, like we did so successfully with growth deal?
Absolutely agreed. So there's the evaluation from the growth deal that we conducted previously, and the conclusions from that were about the extent to which we've leveraged private sector funding and the wider impact on the economy. That is exactly what government is interested in for the next evaluation, particularly, well, both the gain share and the transport fund. The key metric they're interested in is what's the value that we've added to the economy. So the learning from how the growth deal established that absolutely feeds into this. And of course, the other thing that we're doing is, this being the second review of the transport fund, we're taking the learning from the transport fund as well. And all of the projects have moved on significantly from there. So this will be much more about the economic impact, whereas earlier on, 5 years ago, there was less delivery had been achieved. Now there are schemes that are far more progressed, so we'll be able to tell a stronger story about what we've delivered and what the impact is.
Thank you. Making that strong case for West Yorkshire. Thank you. Jane.
Thank you, and I'm sure we can do that. More of a comment than a question, Chair, which is I hope that in the review SQW have some cognizance of the fact that we have been pushed into short-term bidding, the impact on the 5 local authorities in terms of dealing with short-term funding pots, etc., and the fantastic way that we have worked together actually as a combined authority maximise things for the good people of West Yorkshire. But I hope the review actually has cognizance of the landscape that we've been working in, the Brownfield Fund being just one example really of that short-term funding, getting money out the door in a ridiculously short period of time. Thank you.
I think that's well said. And if I could just add, will there be space in this evaluation to also understand government delays that have held us back? Obviously, there have been changes in Westminster, and sometimes we have been waiting for government decisions longer than was initially agreed. Is there space in the evaluation to comment on that?
Yes, we will, as part of the evaluation, set out the broader context within which we're operating, including the challenges with government's approach to funding, which apply more to the gain share aspects than they do to the transport fund, because they are, one of the challenges with this is that they're asking us what we've done with the gain share rather than saying what has the combined authority delivered in terms of skills and business support, right? So for which there are other funding pots. They're asking us just to say what have you used the gain share for and what impact has it had. So absolutely we will want to comment on the context that we're operating in, and we are very cognizant of the fact that the results of these evaluations, as you've alluded to, are likely to affect the future direction of government policy around devolution, and in particular West Yorkshire's place in that. So we will want to tell as positive story as possible.
It's very diplomatically said. Thank you very much, Alan. Okie dokie. We're all happy to approve? Yeah, good stuff. So let's move on to item 6, which is the corporate planning and performance. And this item provides an update on the Combined Authority's corporate key performance indicators for Q3 2022-2023. And just to flag that 2 objectives that could improve: empowering our communities, towns and cities to thrive, creating an accessible, clean and customer-focused transport system. And hopefully, Angela, you can talk us through some of those challenges. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you, Matt. So as you've introduced, we've included in the paper, Appendix 1, the full list of corporate KPIs for your consideration, pages 23 to 31, using a red, amber, green rating to indicate progress. For ease, we've selected KPIs that have improved in rating since Q2 in paragraph 251, and these include improvements in indicators concerning housing retrofit, supporting business startups, business innovation, and the adoption of the bus service improvement plan. We've also pulled out some KPIs in paragraph 252, where KPIs have declined from Q2 to Q3. And these include indicators covering Transforming Cities Fund programme projects, bus reform, bus service improvement plan, year 1 delivery, and Green Jobs Task Force business justification case. In paragraph 2.6, we've highlighted some indicators that have had a red RAG rating for the past 2 quarters, Cost inflation pressures is also a consistent theme with a number of indicators. So paragraph 2.7 shows how the performance delivery is impacting overall on the 7 corporate objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Obviously, the transport is an area of great churn at the moment, so it's understandable, in my opinion, that it is where it is, given the uncertainty. Obviously, it is quite concerning about the, particularly around the Green Jobs Task Force. We want to make sure that we're delivering those green jobs and investing in green skills and businesses that are in that sector. Particularly as we know that this is where the area of growth is going to be. But we'll be able to have further updates on that as the month progresses. Any comments? All happy to approve? Lovely. Thank you. So moving on to item 7, integrated corporate systems. The CI Anywhere, which is going to be quite transformational for our organisation. We're nearly there. Is that true, Angela? We're nearly there with full implementation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We are nearly there, but the final bits are taking a little longer than we hoped. We thought it was useful time to bring you an update on this. I think you had a paper probably a year ago as we were setting off into the implementation. We've been quite quiet about it, but we've been very, very busy doing the testing, configuration, and training on the system. So at the time of drafting this, I think it said we were planning towards a go live in early April. We had originally planned a go live date of just before Christmas. We restated that into April. There was, I think we were very ambitious. This is a system that's replacing HR, finance, payroll, procurement, and is therefore it's a huge system implementation. The plan we had from our consultants was an ambitious one, and it turned out we need a little longer. That once bits came out during testing that weren't quite right, that needed to be fixed, it was only right to make sure we had enough time to make sure everything works properly. We're currently at the point we've pretty much signed off the finance part, we've signed off most of the HR part, and we're doing the final testing and parallel runs on payroll, which comes last in the order of testing simply because of the way the information is built up. But clearly, payroll, we want it all to be right. Payroll absolutely cannot go wrong. So we are still working through the testing and parallel run, and the team are pulling out all the stops to make sure that we understand if the data loads have worked, they're running old and new side by side to see if that works. We haven't confirmed a go live date yet, but we're hoping it will be in April. So much of the work is done. It will transform how we do business within the organisation. It will provide updated information as people go into the system on a morning, that we won't have the delays we currently have in some of the month-end sort of processing. Some of the management information will be readily available as soon as it's in the system, and the system is updated minute by minute. There's no overnight updates. At the moment, we're very dependent on lots of reports being written after the event, and every time somebody quite rightly says, can we see a report on X? We think, yeah, we can, and somebody has to go in and compile that, and we're hoping the new system will make that much, much easier. The HR side in particular will hold a lot more data, and we've been working very hard to get the updated staff structure in it, which at the moment is not in the HR system. It's outside of that. That's maintained separately. So there's a lot of cumbersome processes that we're hoping to replace. We won't press the button for go live till we have absolutely completed every last test and it all works and that the training has happened. So we've done some training, we've done some of that online, some in person. There's user guides being produced. We've recorded the training so people can dip in and out of it. We've got a user forum. I think we've got about 90 colleagues from across the organisation coming to regular meetings who can then bring messages in from their teams, take messages back out. And we've had some external support to make sure that we are very much getting the business change part of this right. We have bought the system as it is. We're doing our best to use it, as the consultants say, out of the box, because the more we try and adapt it and say, oh no, we do things this way, the more that the system becomes harder to maintain and it loses its efficiency. And at the end of the day, paying an invoice is paying an invoice. Their system should be better than our current one, so we've run with it as much as we can, and hopefully, therefore, get the benefits of it. I'm hoping by the time we next meet, I'll be able to come back with confirmation that we have indeed gone live, and be able to bring some of the reporting. And at the moment, the budget reporting is a good example of a place where we're very dependent on complex Excel spreadsheets, and we'll be able to do it from inside the system going forward, which will make it easier doing scenario testing, which I've been challenged about by most of you in the room at some point over the last year, and also just bringing different cuts, slicing and dicing information different ways. So whenever you want to see something, we should be able to produce it much more readily for you, which is what you need as decision makers. So it's good news. We're not quite there. We're probably 90% of the way there, and hopefully we'll close the gap on that final 10% and bring you good news next time. Thank you.
Good stuff, because that's really helpful with our EDI ambitions as well, isn't it? We can just pull data out straight away. Data is going to be really pivotal in our decision making going forward. So thank you for the hard work. And also, what we don't want to do is develop workarounds, because then that becomes cumbersome and you have to pass it on to somebody else. We need everybody to be on the same page on how to manage it. It sounds great, and it will really help HR. I know that they've had an awful lot on their plate recently. Any comments? No? Good stuff. Thank you. Any other business? That closes the meeting then. Thank you. The next meeting is June the 7th, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you.